most stereotype research has in the last few decades, since the 90s, have been about stereotype threat. Stereotype threat being not really a question about whether stereotypes are accurate, but whether exposure to a so-called harmful stereotype could make you behave in line with that stereotype. So it's kind of an expectancy effect.
Yeah.
In this particular, so typical stereotype accuracy study, you take, say, a bunch of female students or male students, whatever. You get some women and men. You split them in two groups at random. One of them gets to read about ponies in Iceland. The other group, they get to read about women are bad at math. And afterwards, they take some kind of math tests, and you check if the people exposed to nice ponies in Iceland versus the women are bad at math text, maybe the latest from Charles Murray or something, whether they do worse on some math test or not, which some arithmetic or something. And supposing you get one of those nice p-values that we discussed, then you immediately write it up and send it to the flagship journal of unreplicable results. And then eventually it ends up in some meta-analysis along with the other studies of the same type. And if you take the mean results of these studies, sure enough, they will show some nice effects. It shows that exposing women to women bad at math stereotypes or claims or whatever makes them indeed worse at math. And so maybe the difference in math, which by the way is also denied, but supposing there was a difference, then it would be definitely due to the harmful stereotypes and not something else like biology.
So the motivation behind this research is that, generally speaking, stereotypes are causing outcomes rather than outcomes causing people to hold certain stereotypes.
Yes, so it's in line with the kind of broader, the social construction of reality that kind of came from sociology. There were some philosopher types there who basically think, if you just think of people being in some way, then they will act in accordance with that way. And if you start thinking something else about them, then they will act better or worse.
So in this worldview, how does one explain the origin of the stereotypes themselves? It just kind of arbitrarily arose.
Yeah, it's kind of arbitrarily arose the same way in every country.
We just
they don't really answer this question.
Just decided to assume that one sex was worse at math on average.
Yes, coincidentally, the sex that is worse at math in every country measure. Nevertheless, maybe this was a global conspiracy of the great patriarchy, and they secretly communicated in the keep women down lodge that we should all adopt the stereotype because we secretly know that women will then act in accordance with the stereotype and therefore become worse at math, and this is good for men somehow.
I mean, there is such a thing as a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a coherent concept, but
it is a coherent concept.
You would argue that the examples are fewer than mainstream sociology and psychology would suggest.
Yes, so there was a more famous line of research into this before the stereotype threat. Stereotype threat is always phrased negatively, hence the word threat, right? It's supposed to make you worse at something in line with some stereotype. The grand old man theory of the social expectations is the Piggalian effect. I think was the study was from the late 60s, as these other studies usually are. Early 70s, late 60s. That's when all the good stuff came out. And in that study, what they did was they came up with a fake tests of potential. And they gave this test to a bunch of kids in some school, so third graders, fourth graders, whatever. And they also collected the teacher's opinion of those students. And after testing all these kids, they fake scored the tests. And so for some children, it was random. These kids were then said they had a hidden high potential. And then they told the teachers this, whoa, little Peter over there, he may not look like much, and maybe he's kind of bad at math and can't spell his name. Nevertheless, this new tests show he has secret potential. So maybe, keep that in mind. And then, they would wait a year and see if Peter's grades went up. So essentially, it's kind of like, if we trick the teachers into thinking that Peter has special potential, maybe the teachers will act in a certain way as to make Peter a better student, right? And then basically they claimed this happened in their study. If you look at the data, you'll see that some of the results are unbelievable. They converted the scores into IQ stuff, and for some reason they published the raw data in some book appendix sometime. So some other people looked at it, obviously, and some of the people who were driving the results is like one student tested like an IQ of 30, and then in the retest they tested like 160. So we are to believe that they were severely retarded to begin with, and then converted into Einstein in the second testing.
So kind of
throws doubt
on reanalysis, it appeared the result was driven by some questionable data points.
Very questionable data points. In fact, it would appear that the test reliability was 0 or maybe negative if one person, there will be some regression towards the mean because of the measurement error. But regressing from, say, 30 to 160 is the largest swing ever, and it's basically not possible.
Yeah.
It sounds like it would be from that the Flowers of Algernon, or whatever that story is called. So a lot of the results from that one came from this sort of thing.
Right.
And if you throw out these obvious bogus data points, there's not much there in this famous study. Of course, there's a bunch of follow-up studies, many of which, also claim to find something, but with much smaller effect sizes, right? So if you go all the way to the modern time, you do a meta-analysis of this, you'll find absurd publication bias in these kind of results. And so Lee Jossam, in his, I think, 2015 book, he was like, yeah, maybe social expectations are real, but the effect size is 0.2 standard deviation. But this was before people figured out how to do, publication bias adjustments correctly or at all. And so if you do some of these adjustments, you'll probably find that this effect maybe doesn't exist, at least not according to the data.